Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am here to talk about a Kickstarter. But before we talk about the Kickstarter, we have a new guest on the show. His name is Michael, and I lost your last name. So you have to, Michael Troy, sorry. And my first time guest, I usually ask them the comic book origin stories. How did you get into comic books and become a lifelong fan, Mike?
I would say I got into comic books like largely through my brother. There was a girl down the street who sold my brother comic books for like 2 and 3 cents each. I mean, they were all in horrible conditions, half without the covers on them, probably like 7-Eleven returns or something like that. But I was, like 3 or 4 years old. I couldn't even read. I fell in love with the art. And like learned to draw, learned to read from comic books, grew up, just having a voracious love of comic books and wanting to draw them myself. Me and my brother used to spend our summer vacations in our bedroom, like making our own comic books and stuff like that. And I just have always collected them. Probably like until after like high school graduation. I think a lot of people fall off. But then, they've always sort of been part of my life. Even if I haven't continued to collect monthly, I've always followed certain artists and, um, you know, just I love comics. So they always have been and always will be a part of my life. I can't remember my life before comic books.
So you have a YouTube channel. You've also done some other creative work. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done.
Well, I came to Los Angeles in 2001 to be an actor, and uh, but I feel like I've always had sort of a connection to comics, like through no fault of my own. Comics have always found me. I went to a birthday party, and like Renee Geerlings from Top Cow Productions was there. So I started talking to her, and I told her I was an artist, and she hooked me up with one of her artists, Bat, and I was his inking assistant briefly. Um, but I did like freelance PR. So I went to Comic-Con for like 8 years in a row. I self-published a couple of comic books, one called The Blonde Squad. Another one was a Lady Gaga tribute comic book called Going Gaga that she actually tweeted about after Comic Con
Very
the year
cool.
it came out. So that was like one of the highlights of my life. And then I wrote a ton of like biography comic books for Blue Water Productions, for better or worse. And actually wrote and drew a Honey Boo Boo comic book that I'm surprised doesn't have more infamy, to be honest.
What about the YouTube channel? You said you started a YouTube channel. What is that about?
I think like, it started during the pandemic. Like, there was a shutdown. I was home from work. My sister had been sending me a bunch of my old comic books from my collection that were in my dad's attic. And I came across like the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel, and they were doing like, flip throughs of comics and talking about comics they loved and talking a lot about the art in the process, which appealed to me as an artist because it's as much as I love comic books, I can't lie, it's like 90% the art for me. Like I'm the person who will buy a book for the art and not the story. And the art has to be there for me. Like you have to be a damn good writer to get me to buy a comic book with crappy art in it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But then again, art is subjective, and I love all kinds of art. Like, I do tons of reviews on my channel, and I'm reviewing everyone from like my favorite John Byrne to all his old classic comic books to, new indie artists. And I love like some of the best comic books coming out right now are like indie comics, self-published, underground comics. I've found so many great cartoonists and appreciate their work so much, reviewed a lot of their stuff, and happily some of them are involved in the project that we're talking about later. And I just think that comics is just such a weird thing. It's like a niche market, and it's weird now because I think they're getting a little backlash because people are kind of fatigued by superhero movies. But I think that comics are still an amazing source of inspiration for movies and for comics itself. So I think that they're viable.
Okay, I'll include the YouTube link in the show notes also. But we're here today to talk about Big Bang Comics Kickstarter. I'm so excited. I wish I had known it was going on sooner. I would have had you on sooner. Before we talk about this, talk a little about Big Bang Comics and how you became involved with the campaign yourself.
It's funny, the way you set that up reminds me that it's sort of status quo for Big Bang, because I keep saying I feel like Big Bang Comics is like the best kept secret in comic books.
It
They're
is.
like they're the longest running independent comic book publisher, 40 plus years, with Gary Carlson and Chris Ecker, through Megaton Comics in the beginning, which launched the careers of Eric Larson, Rob Liefeld,
People forget
uh,
that.
prompting Rob prompting Rob to coin Gary the grandfather of Image Comics, a
Yes,
nickname he happily carries to
he
this
does. And
day.
we've used that when
Um,
I've had him on the show.
yeah, he's amazing. He just, he loves comic books, and he started doing Big Bang and Megaton because he loves comic books. And he's through grassroots publishing. He managed to do like 8 years of Megaton, like month or pretty much annual anthologies, which I interviewed him for my YouTube channel, Michael Fitzgerald Troy TV, and he. Just him talking about the history of his publication and the way he did it, like started planting the seeds for this anthology idea, and then so after Megaton ended, Gary and Chris wanted to focus on the more golden age and silver age style characters, because if you had to explain Big Bang to somebody who didn't know about it, retro comics or homage comics or nostalgia comics is kind of a good way to describe it. They're completely unique and original stories and arts, but they are a lot like a love letter to the silver and golden age of DC and Marvel comics in a way. They definitely pay tribute to the comics that Gary Carlson and Chris Ecker love, and I think the enthusiasm just really shows in a lot of the comics. I mean, doing the research for this anthology, I was like blown away how actually good it is. Like, I think it would be easy to dismiss it as like an indie comic, or a lot of their publication history is in black and white, which arguably doesn't lend itself well to bright, colorful superheroes.
No.
Another reason for me wanting to do this book, I wanted like to get the biggest, brightest, boldest, most beautiful version of Big Bang Comics that ever happened.
So, what makes this Kickstarter special for fans both new and old? What's in it?
That is a good question. A lot of thought went into this because I didn't want to come into this as like an upstart and be like, oh, I can do Big Bang Comics better, or, Big Bang Comics needs to be this or that, because I think that Gary and Chris have showed us what Big Bang Comics needs to be over the last 40 years. The Silver Age and Golden Age nostalgia aspect really appeals to me. But like I said, I'm an artist and a pop artist at that. So that influence is definitely there, and I'm bringing that aesthetic to it. But I wanted it to, like I didn't have a long time to put this together, and I didn't want to be beholden to 40 years of continuity. But, Gary didn't want me to change anything or, upset the apple cart at all. And I didn't want to do that either. So my mantra was basically to put all the toys back in the sandbox, just as I found them. It's not necessarily canon, but it could be. Like, I tried to figure out how to make everything fit within continuity. Like, it doesn't have to be, but there are no like stories that are outlandish or don't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, there was a list of characters I could use and could not use, and for every story, every idea I had, because I'm writing some of it. A lot of the cartoonists are writing their own stories. Chris Acker wrote a 3-page story that is a Night Watchman story that is being illustrated by Stephen Wilcox. So I'm very happy to have a new original story by Chris in the book. So I think like having that alone gives it, sort of a validity when it comes to the old school fans or the old school Big Bang, because it's not like a long time Big Bang fan is going to pick it up and be like, oh, this isn't Big Bang. You know what I mean? I wanted it to have the flavor of Big Bang. And by working closely with Gary and Chris, I feel like I've been able to hold a reverence for Big Bang, yet bring something new to the table. Like, I have so many talented friends in comics, you know, self-publishing or working on indie books, and I've worked with them on other projects. Darkest Image being one of them. A lot of these artists come from Image Grand Design, which is a big fan project. But you know, these artists are so good. I hate to see them wasting their time and not getting paid for art, even if it is fun projects that they love. So that's kind of why I wanted to do a Kickstarter. Eli Schwab, Cosmic Lion Productions, who is publishing this for me. I'm editing it, working with Gary and Chris, and Eli is helping with the Kickstarter and actually the fulfillment of the book, because he's done this before. One of his big books is Ghost Agents. It was a treasury size book on newsprint. You know, and they paid the artist with a Kickstarter. So, you know, comics notoriously do not pay creators, especially on this level. So I kind of wanted to do that. That was another thing. Like, even when Gary was starting out, he was like, you know, working his full-time job, doing whatever, and doing this comics thing on the side. But he paid his artists, you know, $20 a page, which obviously is not a lot, but you know, he still paid them. And I wanted to kind of honor that and sort of, you know, get the artists at least paid, you know, not a lot of money, but you know, at least make the effort. And I don't know. So it's, you know,
no, go on.
I was gonna say, so hopefully it all works out.
So what are some of the rewards in the Kickstarter, and who are some of the creators involved with the Kickstarter?
Well, like I said, I knew it had to be special and I knew it had to be big. Like, the working title is, well, the title is Big Bang Comics. So it's big in size. It's a treasury size, which I love. And it's big, like 100+ pages. And it's big in gesture as well. Like, we have Jim Rugg doing the cover. We have a chase cover by Gary Carlson. We have this amazing, beautiful Berserker centerfold by Nick Cagnetti of Pink Lemonade fame, who is like on fire right now. And we have a great pinup from this up and coming indie artist named Madi Keen, who is like totally amazing. But then, you know, I have like a retro pinup from Chris Ecker that I colored. It was a Night Watchman pinup that was used for a movie pitch that didn't happen. So there's like, there are things like that, like you know, the Nick Cagnetti and the Jim Rugg will bring in the new crowd and the indie crowd, and you know, the pinups and the Gary Carlson touch and the Chris Ecker presence will bring in the old fans. You know what I mean? It's like the perfect combination, and it looks stunning. If you've seen any of the preview pages, like, if you want to inspire artists on a book, tell them that Jim Rugg is doing the cover, and everyone craps their pants and brings their A game. And I just couldn't be more happy with the pages that I have coming in. I'd say it's almost completely finished. We're definitely like probably 75% finished. And, you know, we've got a couple weeks left on the Kickstarter. We're 85% funded, so things are going well. The book will ship on time. I think it'll be in your hands, hopefully in October, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we're rushing this show and piecing it together within a couple of days. I really wanted to get this out, and we're not going to talk very long. So before we wrap this up, do you have anything else you want to add on do you have any parting thoughts, any comments you want to say?
I know, I just want to say that, like, you know, when we were talking before we started, you said you're a Big Bang fan, and uh, you know, you didn't, you wish you had known about the project sooner, and that's kind of my fear. Like, I don't want it to continue being the best kept secret. If you are watching this and you're a Big Bang fan, please help spread the word. There are a lot of artists on this book who are actually longtime Big Bang fans, so I'm very happy to have them here. You know, they're great gatekeepers for the property. This is a big, gorgeous, exciting book. If you're a Big Bang fan, this is for you. If you're a comic book fan, this is for you. If you love superhero comics, if you love just gorgeous art, this is definitely a book worth getting. There's so many fun incentives, like Jim Rugg's cover is we call it the baseball card cover because it like has little baseball card images to the Big Bang cover characters, and this will be turned into a trading card set as an add-on incentive. There's some unique Night Watchman comic strips that are remarked by Chris Ecker. There's some original art available from the past and from the current project as add-ons. So there's just all kinds of exciting stuff to want to get behind this project.
Michael Troy, running the Kickstarter for Big Bang comic books. Your link for your YouTube channel will be in there. I've had Gary Carlson on the show before. There'll be links to that show. Check out Gary Carlson. He's one of my favorite guests to come on. I love them. I'm going to try to get him on again. Michael Troy, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to have you on the podcast again.
Thank you so much. Everybody get out and get that Kickstarter going with Big Bang Comics. Thanks, guys.